Welcome to the Income Cycles podcast, the place to discover how to get returns like the professionals as an average person in the property, forex, and crypto markets. And now over to your host, Mark Vernham.
Hello everyone, welcome along to this week's edition of the Income Cycles podcast. My name's Mark Vernham, and in this week's show we're going to be discovering, is the digital pound actually on its way, or is it never going to happen? We'll also be covering the income news that caught my eye this week in the UK property, forex markets and crypto markets to discover how you can benefit from that news. And also we'll be going through a debrief this week, which is all about the digital pound and some very interesting facts, figures and announcements that have come out to see kind of what's happening, when it's going to happen, and the three things that are affecting it. And of course we'll be giving you also Income Cycles Extra resource, which is really powerful, something to really get your teeth into and understand this whole potential digital currency and what's going to happen and how you can benefit from it as an investor. So straight into this week's income news that caught my attention. In UK property, we saw here from the House Buying Bureau, asking prices for houses in the UK drops by an average of 19.8%. And basically what is here, the Housing Bureau said that they have revealed that home sellers looking to secure a value have seen a asking price reduction on average of 19.8%, while those up unfortunately in Scotland have seen the largest drop at 21.3%, and the South East has seen the largest proportion of homes from there asking for a reduced asking price. So kind of very early on there, but the House Buying Bureau is kind of a leading edge indicator of what could be happening in the property market, because people asking less for their actual property could mean that there is a downturn, or it could just mean that estate agents are going, well, everybody else is down. There's a lot of news out there that's saying the market's down, so we're going to price the houses down, and we're going to advise people to price your houses down so we can sell it. But it's basically seen here, the House Buying Bureau have come out ultimately and saying that the average price is reduced currently on the market of £303,533, seeing a reduction of 19.8%. Nowhere seems to be immune from it. We're seeing a kind of northeast, southeast, etc., seeing 21% correction. Wales 20.8%, West Midlands 20%, and East Midlands 20%, just over. So ultimately, we've seen some big drops. You know, suddenly houses that at the end of last year were asking 20% more than what they are now. You could say that is a leading indicator as to where the property market is going, and I have my own views on that. But certainly we've already seen, I know regularly, if you're on Rightmove and you have any form of subscription that kind of pings back to you when houses are coming, pretty much all the houses now are being relisted at reduced prices or asking, you know, in the region of, which means they're finding it very difficult to really pinpoint what the actual market is like. Obviously, as a result of that, sales have slowed, typically because of the time of year, sort of December. There isn't many houses being sold, and certainly November. And remember, all this data takes a while to filter through, a month or two to filter through. But certainly the asking price is something that, you know, that is something that's trackable as of now, and seeing what's going on there. And London also not immune at 15%. Lowest, believe it or not, is Southwest, 10% reduction in asking prices. So maybe it's slowing down less in the Southwest. But certainly we've seen a lot of reductions on houses. Flats seems to be less immune, so there's more on that side of what's happening there. And I think a lot of that's because people obviously in COVID may have overstretched, now getting hit by the higher mortgage rates, and as a result looking to move on that house and maybe relocate or even downsize. In the FX markets, we're seeing here City AM, FTSE 100 hits new highs yet again, pumped to a record high again after some good strong company results from people like BP, etc. And that's really been pushing sentiment up, and obviously as a result of that, in addition to the highs that it hit recently, has pushed it further and further up. Also strong retailer support from Next and Fraser's Group also pushed out prices, and we're seeing, you know, basically stock prices doing very well. Obviously, we've got some very large profits from, in this particular case, BP, record profits of 23 billion, which is crazy money. And I have my views on that. But ultimately, you know, why is that not being passed on? Why are we seeing high energy prices? But again, I always like to give both sides of the story. So, you know, why they were losing money when COVID was around and they were producing oil and having to store it in ships parked offshore. and now they're making profits and everyone's having to go at them. Don't get me wrong, I think there is a major systemic problem of what's going on with energy and how us as individuals are being charged, and no one seems to be able to take control of that from a governmental level or from a company level, and we're just all being trained that oil prices and electricity prices are high, and that's what we've got to accept. I'm sure at some point I would do a debrief section on oil, because it is something that is a fascinating subject, and we'll also do a foundation series on the oil subject as well, because it does impact everything now, has some form of oil input to maintain markets, to maintain property markets for raw goods, etc. Even the crypto markets are not immune, because obviously they rely on computing, which needs electricity, which is produced using oil or some form of that, and obviously that's really going to become an issue because the green renewables are not ready. But I won't go into that today. We'll go into that onto another subject. But also the FX markets came out and really buoyed by the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, very catchy name there, really work on that one, said that basically the UK will not tip into recession this year. So interesting, they're saying now, based on Bank of England came out last week and said it's going to be a 5-quarter shallow recession. We've got this sort of Institute of Social and National Economic Research said that they don't believe it will be, and that's obviously helped keep the market strong. So take what you will from that. Will we see something? I think we're seeing certainly a slowdown generally. We're not seeing the big growths. Obviously, a lot of these companies rely on supply chains, and with China just starting to open back up, they're certainly not supplying the amount of goods out they used to. I think we're in for a very interesting first quarter of the year, certainly with the markets, etc. If we look at crypto news that caught my eye, another one from City AM, very interesting. Crypto laws not likely to be ready in 2023, said City Minister Andrew Griffith, who basically said that regulations for currencies and digital currencies are not ready yet till 2023, and said the government aim is to be the home of well-regulated and well-run technologically advanced financial systems. And this is really the key thing here, is they came out, certainly in the last week or two, the government, with big strong statements about the digital pound, which we'll be talking about shortly, and kind of central bank currencies, digital currencies, CBDCs, and also came out and said they want to be seen as the hub of kind of digital currencies. Potentially they could be a digital hub, and I think they're certainly pushing forward with that to try and gain a march on other countries out there as being the leading market for digital central currencies, whatever they may be called in the future. But ultimately, as ever, the good old governments have come out with, we're going to do all this stuff, we're going to regulate exchanges because of FTX going under, we're going to make it well regulated, well run, etc, etc. Oh, but by the way, none of it's going to be quite ready yet. So as ever, like the new homes promise of building 300,000 homes every year, they always fall short and they're always way behind. So watch this space whether these laws actually come in. But as ever, they like to come out and shout about it before they've actually done anything. But they're basically saying that, they will be coming forward in weeks, apparently, to Mr. Griffin says, with 2 public consultations on crypto assets and how to regulate them, and also central bank digital currencies, which we're talking a lot about today. And obviously, good old Mr. Sunak said that in 2022, last year, he wanted to be UK to be a global crypto assets hub. It was interesting because one point I picked up from this as well was basically saying that 2.3 million people in the UK own some form of crypto asset. So very, very interesting to see that. And apparently, allegedly, 40% of those 2.3 million people, don't quite know how they kind of surveyed them, but it's always interesting to know their survey, said that they understood that they are purchasing crypto assets is a gamble. I love the wording on there, that they're trying to put crypto assets in the gambling pot. Well, if that's the case, then they could argue, why not make them tax-free as well? But I'm sure they won't do that, because if this is where the future of digital currencies at, I'm sure they'll want to get their money in and get their tax as well. So interesting to see what happens there with regulations, but certainly the government coming out with a big announcement saying they're going to regulate, and then, oh, by the way, we're not going to be ready yet. So watch this space on regulation, which is interesting. Okay, so on to this week's Income Cycles debrief, and we're going to be talking about all the various things that it's been known as, but certainly Britcoin, the digital pound, etc. But essentially a CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency as it's known. And I guess really the question is it going to happen or when? Well, I think based on the news, based on the announcements now, dare I say, politicians don't always follow through on what they say, but certainly the appetite, let's call it that, is there for this, and it's one of the key promises is to ensure that London now becomes the central crypto business hub of assets out there in the world. Seems to be a very strong play. So that seems to be happening. I think obviously there's a lot that have got to happen with tax side, regulation side for that to actually happen, to get people wanting to come to the UK as a business and set up here because of regulatory, versus New York or LA or anywhere else that could be done, Singapore, etc. So there's a lot in there, but I think the key thing is it going to happen? I believe it is. If so, when? Well, that's the ultimate question that we always ask with cycles and various other things, because this obviously would massively impact things like Bitcoin pricing, regulation, all that kind of stuff. Check out one of the foundation series we recently did on Bitcoin and what affects that, and is it here to stay, and what the cycle actually is, because there's a cycle based on halving that actually isn't really a cycle at all. So check that out if you're interested in how to get your Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies working better. But I think, yes, it's a case of, yes, it's happening. Is it a case of when? Well, they've come out literally, and said this week, within the decade is their aim, but not before 2025. So if I take this as what have I seen in my lifetime governments do and promise and actually deliver, my best estimate will be somewhere between 2025 and 2030. Possibly towards the latter end, because as ever there will always be things in the way. A lot of that really depends on which government are in charge at that point as well, but I do think whichever government's in charge will be led by Bank of England and that kind of stuff to make sure that things are moving in that direction. But I think the real question is what is this CBDC? Why does it need to exist? But also, what problem does it solve, and what's the solutions that it gives us as individuals and the government to solve problems that are out there? And obviously there's a lot, and again, more as subject. I'm sure we'll do an actual foundation part on this, but ultimately I'm going to give you a brief overview, and then we'll dive, I'm sure, as this progresses over the weeks, months and years, a much more detailed view of what I'm seeing happening with CBDCs, not just in the UK but certainly all over the world. So if we just look at why they would want to do this, and what's the biggest issue that government all over the world, but let's just talk about the UK because they seem to be leading the charge on this. It really satisfies two issues they have, which is tax collection, i.e. tax evasion. So people who are not declaring money that is being earned because they can't track it. This is the problem. And money laundering. So, doing illegal things and actually filtering money through the system in different ways. That is obviously illegal. Both of these are illegal in different ways. And therefore, ultimately, the government lose more money in these two areas than anywhere else. So, yes, mismanagement. Yes, various scandals and God knows what else with, procuring goods and NHS and badly run government departments and everything else aside, their main problems as a government is, and this is every government, is struggling to make sure they get all the tax they're due, because if they did, that would really help balance the books, which means they can borrow less. And secondly, crack down on illegal activity, which I'm not going to go into what they are, but you can all understand what they are, from the drugs through to prostitution and racketeering and all that kind of stuff. So any illegal game, basically, these are the problems that they have, because they can be filtered through shell companies, entities, etc. And there is a very difficult and labour-intensive paper trail to ensure that they can catch these people, and it's months and years of investigation. And the same for tax collection. The more sophisticated people get, the less sophisticated kind of the governments get with this stuff, because it's a manpower issue. So going from this sort of archaic cash in hand, we've seen early transitions of this, obviously, with COVID, and now is not the time for me to go into why I believe one of the reasons COVID was kind of a bit of a test case. Forget about the horrible medical and life impacting and losses of people that we had as a result of the actual disease killing people. From a financial point of view, I believe it was a big test case to see how well people would adopt something new. How well would they adopt being given money to stay at home effectively? How well would they adopt not using cash because it was deemed to be dirty, so to speak, carrying germs, etc. And obviously, in certain countries now, like Sweden and that, is pretty much total digital. In the UK now, there is fewer and fewer and fewer places who accept cash anymore. 2 of my local restaurants no longer accept cash. They only do cards. So if I go in there with cash, they will not accept it. They just refuse now. So it's trained a lot of people now, myself included. I mean, I still carry cash with me everywhere, but ultimately my natural instinct is to pull out a card and use a card, which is crazy because I always used to be a cash person as far as, I just was trained, cash was the thing. Like when my parents grew up, cards weren't really around. So we've evolved into this digital society now where we tap our phone and we do all this kind of stuff. And ultimately, cash now is becoming less and less and less important, but less and less relevant to average people. And if you don't believe me, go and stand in a Starbucks line and look at kind of how many people use their phone to tap to pay. Look at how many people use their card. Look at how many people now actually give cash for their cup of coffee. Go back prior to COVID, there was a lot more people giving cash for their cup of coffee. So certainly it was, I believe, a way to kind of understand, see whether people were kind of going to go digital if they put it in front of them with the right incentives. And obviously health was an incentive, if that makes sense, to stop the disease spreading and stay at home and this, that and the other. But it was a good example to get more people going digital. And if you go digital with this CBDC, well, now everything can be tracked because we've got a brand new currency that is all digitally tracked. Every single move you make, which also could be seen as scary, is tracked. As in, like the money, where you spend it, what you spend it on, how often you spend it, etc., etc. All of that can be tracked. But also it means it can have kind of the let's get the negatives out of the way. It can be negative, and we'll come on to that. Actually, let's come on to that next. But first, let's come on to the positives for the government is, well, immediately now, if everything is being tracked, there will always be an underground economy of something, okay? But the majority of tax evasion and tax collection can happen because it's digital. They can literally pull it straight out of those wallets because they will have control over that currency because they are issuing that currency, but it's digitally tracked, not buried in a shoebox in your garden or under the bed. They can literally go in there and take their tax. So that's good, but from their point of view, but not good from our point of view, if that makes sense. Also things like money laundering. Well, if you're now using illicit services, let's just quote that, and you're paying digitally with digital currency, well, that is all tracked. Every single thing is tracked. So they're actually solving the two problems they have. This CBDC is one of many benefits, is having these two major problems solved, let alone everything else around debt, writing off debt, etc. It's a big subject, so I'm only going to kind of touch briefly on it in this particular debrief, but obviously we will be doing a lot on this over the coming weeks, months and years as this kind of currency evolves into this new potential currency. But essentially it means it can track everything, and also they can incentivize growth in the right way. So you could argue that stimulus economy, quantitative easing, all that kind of stuff, pumping money into the economy in a kind of semi-uncontrolled fashion, from either putting it into the big institutions and pension funds and propping them up, versus, as we did in COVID, kind of giving it to you directly, and in America they actually physically mailed you checks to spend, giving you money to stay at home kind of thing in COVID. Well, that's a way of controlling the economy in a much better way than just pumping it in the system and hoping the system kind of works. So what if they set the new system up that meant they could control the flow of money much better than having to kind of, make sure that the system works well enough for it then to work and actually reduce inflation or increase output? They could literally incentivize growth in the right way. So in a positive way, they could say, you're a small business, and let's assume you're a printing business. Okay, we will basically give you 1 million CBDCs to go and buy new equipment at 0 interest or 1% interest or whatever. So they become the new bank because they can incentivize growth geographically or in little towns and villages. So this whole, levelling up thing that they've been going on about for months and years in political terms, I agree it needs to happen. But, they can now literally go, right, every business in Northampton or Newcastle or Scotland or wherever, maybe not so much Scotland because they're going to have their own rules, but certainly, Carlisle, let's say, right on the border, we can incentivise businesses and individuals to go out and spend money in that town only using a CBC that's only redeemable at that particular place. A bit like it is now. You get a voucher from Woucher or whatever that you buy. It's only redeemable on a special offer at that. They could do the same thing there. So it's really, really powerful as far as their ability to control, increase economies in the right way geographically. They obviously can use that money in the right way to benefit communities and lots of other things as well. So there's a lot of positives, and I can see why they want to do it. Obviously, kind of like the problem is, the other opposite side of that. Now, this is the scary thing. There is basically big data involved here. And if you don't understand what big data is, think of Google. Now, Google, believe it or not, I've read into this a lot, they have, on average, on every individual in the world that uses their services, 71 million data points. So Google know now pretty much everything about you, because you are using perhaps their email, you're using their search engine, obviously what you search for, when you search for it, what you're likely to search for after you search for what you search for, what you buy, what you don't buy. All the websites have trackers on them to make sure they're tracking purchases and this, that and the other by the individual companies, because they want to know where to spend their advertising. They know which adverts you click on, what time of day. They know what videos you download. They obviously own YouTube, so they know what you're asking for, what you're looking to achieve, what you're not looking to achieve, etc. Take it now into your car. Lots of these car companies now are partnered with Google and Apple and people like that, who then basically have data of how quick you drive, where you drive, how often you drive, where you stop, where you don't stop, how much traffic you sit in, what speed you go at, because obviously sat-nav works off our phones. All that data is being stored by the big data companies. And this is like, Google literally can know whether or not you're more or less likely to have a car accident better than the insurance companies do, because they know that typically you drive on a road that's 30 miles an hour. You on average drive on a road at 8 p.m. every Saturday. You drive an average of 42 miles on there. Therefore, statistically, you're more likely to have an accident because of that, because they know you. So also things like, one of the positives, if we look at this, could be that they can track you as an individual. And this is obviously where the CBDC big data stuff comes in. If you marry those two together, which is what the government's aim is, they could then say, right, we've got major problems here in this geographical region of bad health, overweight, heart attacks, etc. Let's now incentivize people, because we've identified that you eat pizza 4 times a week because you bought it at Domino's or whatever, or you bought it in a shop. We know that because we can see the whole thing. We're now going to give you 100 CBDCs to go out and basically spend those on healthy food only or a gym only. And it has an expiry time that if you don't do it by this month, you lose that £100. You can't go and spend it anywhere else, but you can only spend it there. So you can see the power and the devil and the God in both of this. There's some really negative stuff and Big Brother watching you, which scares a lot of us if we don't understand it. And, to be fair, it's a quite concerning time ahead as well. So there's lots of different ways that they need to kind of make this happen. And ultimately, the big problem they're going to have here is getting people to adopt it. Like, how will people just welcome with open arms this brand new currency that they know nothing about? Kind of a bit like the transition that a lot of the European countries had. Like when I was in Cyprus, we transferred one day from the Cypriot pound to the euro, and it was so much confusion. What does this bit of paper mean versus this old bit of paper, and how many of those do I need to buy my loaf of bread compared to what I did yesterday? And there's a lot of confusion about it. So how do we get people to incentivize that? There's a lot of stuff around that. You've got to incentivize them ultimately to do it. I will do a whole foundation series on this, but there's a thing called U.B.I, Universal Basic Income, kind of what we do now, but in a fixed way that everyone would get it, to incentivize you, a bit like COVID. Come along, adopt this new currency that we've got, essentially the Britcoin, or whatever we want to kind of comedy call it, this new CBDC, and essentially bingo, there we go, you're going to get 1,500 of these lovely coins every month that you can spend wherever you want to, although they may put restrictions on that later, without you needing it. So it's like the ultimate benefit system. Everyone benefits from it, but you don't have to have any negativity around that receiving it, if that makes sense. You don't have to be on a low income. Everyone's going to get it. So that could be one way they're doing it, because they trialled it a bit with COVID. So big thing on there, but ultimately, this is where potentially it could all end up. So a big subject there I'm trying to squeeze into a short period, but you get the idea of why this CBDC, Britcoin, digital pound, whatever you want to call it, I believe will happen. And I think it's a case of when, but ultimately lots of different things could happen between now and then, and what's going to happen there. So I will be doing a whole foundation series on this sort of digital stuff as it progresses. But in the meantime, I hope you found that kind of an overview of why this thing's come about and what it actually means behind the headlines and when it's likely to happen. So, obviously this week's Income Cycles extra resource, it would be crazy for me not to give you more information about this if you want to, point you to a resource. Now, obviously with this, you have to be really careful because there's a lot of scaremongery, a lot of leftism, rightism, crazy people out there talking about crazy stuff. But if you are interested in this and you want to kind of understand a bit more about it and how it could affect you and where it's come from and who's in control, they believe, and all that, there is a very interesting character, let's say that about him, a guy called Alex Jones, Jones, who basically wrote the book called set up the company called InfoWars, which has been synonymous with being sued over a Texas shooting and God knows what else. So be aware, quite controversial character, a bit like a Donald Trump, but even worse in that respect. But he has a bit of a read of a book out called The Great Reset. A guy called Alex Jones. It's a bit of a read though. It's 264 pages, but basically he lays bare the sinister, and I'm reading this from the subject here, the sinister movement promoted by Klaus Schwab, who basically is the World Economic Forum, which you may have heard on the news. And the book basically explains kind of how they're manipulating global events to basically get people to achieve their aims, which is this controlled digital currency and governments kind of running stuff, which sounds a little bit scary and Orwellian, but just could be worth a read if you're interested in that stuff. If you're not, no problems, don't touch it. But if you are interested in learning more, I highly recommend that as a different opinion of the worst case scenario of what could actually be happening out there. It is The Great Reset book by Alex Jones. So that concludes this week's edition. I hope you found that useful. Hope you've got some great information. As ever, let's be keeping an eye, we will be for you on those income cycles in Forex, crypto and the property world. In the meantime, I hope you've had a great week and I look forward to catching up very, very soon on a future Income Cycles podcast. And remember, your money should be working as hard as you did to get it.
That concludes this edition of Income Cycles. Be sure to tune in each week to hear the best information on how to get income like the professionals do from property, Forex and crypto markets. For more information, please register your free account at incomecycles.com. Once registered, you'll receive our free weekly research roundup email containing links to the very best free trainings, webinars and guides to making an income like the pros do from markets. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to Income Cycles on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice to have Income Cycles automatically delivered to your mobile device each week, free of charge. You can email questions for the program to ask at incomecycles.com, and we'll answer your questions on the air from time to time in our Ask Us segment. Income Cycles is presented for informational and entertainment purposes only. The information presented on Income Cycles should not be construed as investment advice. Always consult a licensed investment professional before making investment decisions. The views and opinions expressed on Income Cycles are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the show's hosts or sponsors. Income Cycles, its producers, sponsors, and host Mark Vernham shall not be liable for losses resulting from investment decisions based on information or viewpoints presented on Income Cycles. If you enjoy listening to Income Cycles, why not share it with a friend or colleague? We thank you for your support.